Again, welcome everybody to ActiveRain University. My name is Bob Stewart, and today we're going to be crowdsourcing some of the best real estate mobile apps out there. And so I'm going to be the guy presenting these apps to you, but the star of the show is some of the folks from the ActiveRain community. And what we do with these crowdsourcing webinars is we kind of put a question out to you guys. And in this case, the question is, hey, what kind of real estate apps are you using in your business? And kind of tell us why. And then you guys write a bunch of blog posts about those, and we go through and comb through the 150 blog posts that you guys wrote about the apps that you're using and pull out, some of the common ones and some of the most popular, and then I guess what I thought were some of the kind of cooler or neater ones that I could absolutely see people using in their everyday business. And so you guys are the star of the show. You brought us these ideas. I want to thank Adobe EchoSign. They sponsored the contest that generated all of these great blog posts about these things. So I wanted to give a little shout out to them really quick. They do mobile signing, right? You got contracts that you need to get signed on the go. That's what these guys do. They've got of course, it makes sense that they have an app, right? That's what we're talking about today. So you can get your signings done on the go. So let's start really basic. Okay, this is an app that you don't have to be a real estate agent to use this, but a bunch of people said, and I might be in this boat. A bunch of people said the app I use the most often in my real estate business is just a flashlight app. And there was this one iHandy that there was a couple different ones that people mentioned. This one has like a level on it. It's got a flashlight. It's got a tape measure. Got a couple other cool little features of it. But I'm assuming that a lot of you guys are using a flashlight app, right? It's not very uncommon that you would walk into, especially if you're in a distressed market, or maybe those aren't as common today, but you would walk into a house that didn't have power on, or something like that, or they're wanting to check the crawl space out, or whatever it is. For whatever reason you're without light, these apps are pretty awesome. I would imagine by this point most of us have one of these on our phone, but if you don't and you've ever found yourself in the dark, probably a pretty good idea. Camera Plus is an app, and Kathy had written about how she uses Camera Plus, and granted, most of us have phones on our camera now. Camera Plus is kind of the next step for your phone, for the camera phone you have. I mean, it can make pictures look a whole heck of a lot better than you can, I promise. I would consider myself on the very, very low end of being, I'm that guy that if you give me your camera when you're like, strolling by on the pier and ask me to take a picture of you, you made a mistake. But with Camera Plus, and I use this on my iPhone, it's available on the Android, it's really, really hard to mess up pictures. And then once you have them, you can do some really cool things with them, right? They've got all the filters and the ability to make it look just way better than you could have made it look. Kathy talks about using this. She actually does her listing pictures, and I've seen her pictures on her blog, and I even went in as she wrote it and was saying that does her listing pictures like that. I started checking out some of her listings. And her photos were pretty good. Where I can really see people using this, and especially if you're a blogger on ActiveRain, the pictures that she has in her blog are really outstanding, and I think there's something to be said for imagery as somebody's landing on your post, a consumer that maybe doesn't know you landing on your post, to have some really bright, vibrant images. And so she talks about, hey, when she's out and about around town, she's always just taking pictures of neighborhoods and of condo complexes and things that she knows that she's going to write about in her blog, and she does that with Camera Plus. Like I said, we've all got cameras on our phones, but this is an app that can definitely take that thing to the next level. Again, this is one of these ones where almost any time, if you've got a phone, right, you've got the maps now. If you've got a smartphone, we've got our maps on our phone. Again, these are not things that are particular to real estate. Everybody gets lost, right? So it was interesting, though, that I'd say 4 or 5 people wrote about their favorite app being their map app. 3 of those were people saying MapQuest. They use MapQuest, and I guess I don't really go out of my way to try to find, I use the iOS maps. I know there was a bunch of fervor when they switched from using Google to iOS on the Apple, on the iPhone, but I live in this, maybe it's just because I live in the city, it works for me. But a lot of people were, or a couple of people were saying, I use MapQuest. It just seems to work a little bit better in my area. So if you have trouble with either one of those, I can't imagine you'd have trouble with Google Maps. They're like mapping the moon now. So, okay, so now we start to get a little bit more into some things that could be applicable to your business. Not that those other ones weren't, but SMS Backup and Restore, and that's an app for the Android. And then the app for the iPhone is called SMS Export. And so the lady that wrote about this particular app, and she wrote about SMS Backup and Restore, talked about how today a lot of her transactions happen through text. And so she wants to make sure when that transaction gets closed, she's one of those CYAs, right? Or CYBs, I don't know, this is a family show. Cover your butt, right? She wants to make sure that if a client told her something in a text message, that thing gets into the file. And so what she does is she'll export her text messages, and then she can save text messages that she had with specific clients. And you know, if you're in the CYA business, which as a broker and an agent you really should be in the CYA business, this is probably a pretty good app to have in terms of keeping all of that communication with your clients accessible, right? Because if you were to lose your phone, you don't have that text communication necessarily anymore. Maybe you can get it from your provider, but I know some of the providers, it's a pain to get the actual wording of those messages versus just the fact that one was sent. So the next one is a mobile hotspot, and quite a few people wrote about really loving the fact that they can turn their phone into a mobile hotspot. And for most of us, this would be a function of our plan, right? So like on an iPhone, you have to have tethering as a part of your plan, and it runs about $20 a month on the iPhone anyway. And you know, the price may vary from phone to phone and from provider to provider. But the idea is you can turn your phone anytime you get a phone signal into an internet hotspot. So that I find this happening for me from time to time, right, where there's something on my phone or maybe on my iPad that just isn't working like I want it to be working, but I'm not in a position to use my laptop. So with the mobile hotspot, if there's that time when you're out somewhere and it's just not working on your phone, you just turn your phone into your Wi-Fi connection, and you can then access your laptop and get online and use that thing for some of those those things that just don't work. As much as everybody's using their phones these days, there's still those things out there that you come across that just don't work. For a lot of you guys, that might be your MLS or something of that nature, or your forms, or something like that, where you've got to have your laptop. All right, so the next one is, what's funny? Like, I can remember, so we had a real estate office, a brokerage prior to ActiveRain, and that actually looks like our first scanner. And I can remember being so proud of like our office and our scanner, and that thing was really expensive. Today, like, we don't need these things, right? There's these different scanner apps, and a lot of folks talked about these. So there's 3 different ones that they mentioned. There was probably another 3 that people mentioned that I didn't put on this slide, but Cam Scanner, Turbo Scan, and Scanner Pro. These are just apps for your phone that allow you to scan and turn just about anything into a PDF. And some of these, there's different levels of these, and there's free versions. The Cam Scanner and the Scanner both have a free version. The Pro versions allow you to get, it's like it'll remove a watermark, or it will give you more storage, or it will give you a higher definition scan, something to that. Maybe it'll remove the ads from your app. And generally, for the Pro versions, you're looking at, anywhere between 99 cents and $4.99. It's a one-time investment, but, to be out there on the road, I'm sure you guys, you come across these instances where, man, you got something, you need to get it faxed, and it's like, I got to scan it, like, I can just scan it with my phone. And the folks that talked about using these, you can tell that it's saved their butts on more than one occasion, and they really appreciated having these apps available. And some of these are free. All right, Slydial. So how many of you guys like absolutely love that one client who's one of the greatest people you know, but when you call them up, every time that you talk to them, it's going to be a 4-hour conversation. I mean, we all love that person, right? We love them personally, but for our business, they might not be that great. And maybe it's just a small piece of info that we have to pass on to them, but we know when we call them, it's just going to be a marathon. What Slydial allows you to do is to call any cell phone and to bypass the cell phone ringing and to just go directly into their voicemail. So the lady, there was a couple of people that wrote about this. The one that I really liked is she talked about how a lot of times at the end of her day, which she said can be at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night, at the end of her day, there's a few things that she wants to get to people where it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be great for an email. She said, I like to have people hear my voice and the inflection, and if it's something really important, I don't want anything to get messed up in that email. She said, but it's 11 o'clock, so I don't want to call and wake them up. So what she'll do is she'll use Slydial, she'll bypass the ring, right? She'll drop it straight into their voicemail, and then she'll give them her message. You know, this can also be used for like your girlfriend or your wife, right? Oh, honey, I tried to call you, you didn't answer, but I left you a message. Actually, I think the app has a disclaimer. You are not allowed to do that. Okay, it's only for the client that wants to talk for 4 hours. Slydial, it's pretty cool. Evernote. So there was a bunch of you guys when I asked what kind of apps are you using who said Evernote, and I'll be the first one to admit I need Evernote. I have it on my phone, and I just haven't dove in and really seen how the power of it. And from the people that write about this thing, and some of the people that I know personally that use this in their business, this is like when people get involved in Evernote and start using it effectively, it quickly becomes their absolute favorite thing on the face of the earth. And there's a blog here, and Carrie's going to share that blog post with you guys right now on the chat area of your GoToWebinar control panel. That blog talks about it's 6 real estate tips from Christina Weiss, and Christina Weiss is the owner of the Good Life team. They're based out of Austin, Texas, and they run a paperless business. And in this blog post, which is on Evernote's blog, Christina talks about how she uses Evernote, and it's a really good post. She gives you some great ideas for like real specific applications of how to use it in your real estate business. But the idea with Evernote is you can basically save everything and anything to this app, and then it goes up into the cloud. So, you know, from simple things like notes and to-do lists to you know, videos and pictures and files and just about anything you want, and it gives you a pretty good way to organize that stuff. And so if you're like the sticky note guy, right? I used to be the sticky note guy. I've gotten away from that. I'm not quite the Evernote guy yet, but it allows you to really organize things. And again, in her blog post, she does a really awesome job of talking about the very specific real estate applications for this. And you know, the posts from the contest, that they do a pretty good job as well. But this is a lady who this Evernote is integral to her real estate business. And so if you ever wanted to get organized, that's the way to go. And again, here's another one, and she uses Evernote a lot in conjunction with Dropbox, and there's some other folks out there that were saying, I use Dropbox a lot. When I asked you guys earlier, what kind of apps are you using? But the idea is, right, we can basically host and store any file and then have it accessible to us anywhere, right? It goes into the cloud. We've got access to it from our mobile device, from our laptop, from somebody else's laptop. You know what's interesting? You probably would never have access to it from somebody else's mobile device because, you know, we would never lend our phones to someone else, right? We would lend our car, like, to our best friend for the weekend, but we would never, like, he couldn't have our phone for more than 5 minutes. Dropbox, it's cloud storage. I would imagine a lot of you guys are using Dropbox. We use it at ActiveRain. Michelle does a really good job of keeping us all organized. Everything's on Dropbox. If I need something, I'm lazy, so I generally ask her where it's at, and she sends me the link because she's awesome, but I know where to go and find it if Michelle's not available for me. OpenHomePro. So we did a webinar similar to this, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago when we talked about OpenHomePro. The OpenHomePro is an iPad app that allows you to be a little bit more efficient with your open houses. So instead of having the sign-up sheet where, you know, you can't read half of the email addresses, and then when you get home you got to manually input that thing into your database, and some of us don't even use our database as well as we should. OpenHomePro kind of keeps all that stuff right in one place. As people come in, you can have them sign in on OpenHomePro on your iPad app at the open house. You can set it up to ask whatever questions you want. So if you wanted to be really basic and get like their name and email address, you could keep it super basic. If you wanted to ask them a few pointed questions, are you working with an agent? Have you been pre-approved for a loan? Are you interested? Whatever. You can make it as few or as many questions as you want. And then it does a couple of, it gives you a nice, clean, exportable CSV file at the end that you can easily add to your database. It will send out like a thank you note to anybody that stopped by and visited the open house. This thing is like $14.99, I think, so track your mileage and your expenses around your car. Okay, so all of us, if you guys are all independent contractors, right? Your taxes can get pretty messy when tax time comes around, and if you're not keeping track of these things, you're probably thinking, I don't need this. I've never been audited. But if you've ever been audited, or if you ever expect in the future you could be audited, Vehicle is a really cool app. It's super easy to use to help you keep track of your mileage and your expenses as it relates to your car. I think that's pretty applicable for you guys. You guys are all using your cars in your business a ridiculous amount. So GasBuddy, another car-related app. I love GasBuddy. What GasBuddy does is when it's super cold outside and you get to the gas pump and you don't want to get out of the car, you just turn on GasBuddy and somebody will show up and pump your gas for you. Now, if you believe that, I've got this really awesome piece of property out in eastern Washington. It's got waterfront views of the ocean. It's amazing. Okay, that's not what GasBuddy is, right? GasBuddy is actually an app that shows you where the cheapest gas is. And so, again, you guys are driving all over the place, and so when you're out and about, in the course of your day, you probably pass 50 different gas stations that you could have went and got gas at. GasBuddy's going to tell you which one has the cheapest gas. But it'd be really cool if somebody could come up with an app that allowed me to stay in my car when it's freezing cold outside. So this is two different apps, House and HammerPoint. And Brian Robertson, one of our ActiveRain members, he wrote about these two apps in his submission. And what House is a website, and they're a very cool website. And I don't know, I kind of like to think of it as like home porn or something, where like Zillow would be like housing prices porn, right? You can go on there and see what your neighbor's house is worth, or truly as real estate listings porn, every single listing in the whole country. The House is like what the inside of the houses look like, pornography. It literally is. Like if you wanted to see cool bathrooms, you can go on House and they have just so many bathrooms you would never know what to do with yourself. How Brian uses it is when he has a client in a house and they're kind of on the edge and they're thinking, I don't know, but those bathrooms, like we'd have to remodel the bathrooms and stuff. What he'll do is he'll pull out his House and he'll say, well, what kind of style do you like? And you can drill House down and really get images and layouts for things like a bathroom, for instance, or a remodel on a man cave or a den or whatever it is, and you can see thousands and thousands of different design ideas for that. Then what HammerPoint does is HammerPoint will give you easy estimates on renovations and remodels, kind of based on some criteria that you give it. So how big is the room? Like what are the things that you wanted to do? You want to paint? Do you want to change the flooring? What kind of flooring do you want? And it will allow you to get an estimate on what remodel costs will be. So if you've got a client who's in the house and they're going, well, we don't know about that bathroom, God, we'd have to do something with that. What Brian will do is he'll pull out HammerPoint and he'll say, all right, well, generally on a bathroom of that size, it takes them a minute or three. So you're looking at about a $8,000 to $10,000 remodel. And so it really helps his clients to kind of get a grasp on, okay, standing in a house that's not exactly what they want, and giving them the vision for what they could do to that house, right? That's House. And then what it's going to cost them to do to that house, that's HammerPoint. Okay, so this app, Homesnap, and the lady that wrote about this app, what she said in her post was, have you ever been out with a client, right? So you get your tour, right? You're going to go see 8 houses. You're out with your client. You had your tour set up 2 days ago, and as you're driving down the road, you pass a house that's not on the list. and they go, well, what about that house? And you realize that house literally just came on the market yesterday. And so you're thinking, man, that's really embarrassing. I left this house off their tour. I'm sure they wanted to see it. It's in the same neighborhood that we're looking at 2 other houses. What Homesnap will allow you to do is literally just take a picture of the front of the house, and if that house is for sale, it will pull all of the information in about that house. The price, all of the kind of MLS sort of information that would be available about that house. Now here's the thing. This is assuming that Homesnap is available with your MLS or in your market. And they're not in every market yet, but they're quickly expanding. So in most of the major kind of metro markets or the larger MLSs, Homesnap is available. And again, you can download that thing. You can literally be standing in front of a house, just take a picture of the house, and it will go in based on that photo of the home and find the information about that house, right? So it's doing it, I would imagine, because I'm sitting there thinking, what, really? Like they have that great of picture technology recognition? Or I would guess there's some component of like where, the fact that Homesnap knows where you're standing and then is able to kind of compare that with pictures. I'm not sure. They've got a pretty slick little algorithm though, and you can just be standing in front of a house, take a picture, and it will give you the details on that home or that listing. Okay, and then the last one we have, so this is like number 15 on the list maybe, is Magic Plan. And Magic Plan is an app that will allow you to easily, by standing in a room and taking photos, draw a blueprint for the house. And so if you're standing in the living room with clients and they're wanting to know, like, all right, this house is, we think this is going to be the place, but I'm just not sure that this living room's big enough for our furniture, or, something like that. What you can do is you can map that thing out for them, and then when they get home, and you can send them the floor plan of the house, and then when they get home, they can actually, if they have the app, they can play with it. They can put their furniture in there. You can do things like, if you've got the fireplace in the living room, and that's going to kind of mess with their furniture, you can take the floor plan. Just by taking pictures of the room, it will turn a floor plan out for you, and then you can place the fireplace in there. You can place like electrical outlets. You can place alcoves, and all the different things you would see in a house that are going to kind of mess with somebody's ability to have it looking like they want based on their furniture. And you can play all of those things into Magic Plan so that people can get a really good idea. I think it was Cheryl that wrote about this. Whoever wrote about this said, be careful. This is very addicting. And generally the first thing you end up doing with this is mapping your own house, right? You walk around your own house and you get a cool floor plan of your house. And then you go over to House and you start looking for a new way to decorate your living room, and the next thing you know, you're remodeling with Hammer Point, and off you go, and you've spent all day on your real estate apps, and you got no business done. That's obviously not what we want, and hopefully you can see how some of these apps are applicable to your business, and things that could, that if you're using them, you could save a little bit of time here and there, be able to wow your clients a little bit, and just make your job a little bit easier. Appreciated everybody for joining. You guys have an awesome finish to your week, a great weekend. Hopefully you get a little bit of time to spend with your friends and family this weekend, and of course you'll be rooting for the Seahawks. Go Seahawks. Bye-bye everybody. On behalf of Carrie and Michelle, I'm Bob at ActiveRain University. Have a great weekend.